You've been kneeling in sacred silence, whispering your deepest longings into the infinite, pouring your heart out in prayer after prayer, and yet the universe seems deaf to your calls. You've tried gratitude journals, vision boards, meditation practices, and endless hours of asking, pleading, hoping that somewhere in the cosmic web your voice is being heard. But here's what nobody tells you about why your prayers seem to vanish into the void like smoke in wind. The universe isn't ignoring you. You're speaking in a language it cannot understand. Most people approach prayer like sending a letter to a distant relative, hoping it will somehow find its way across the vastness of space and time to reach divine ears. They speak from a place of separation, of need, of lacking, unconsciously reinforcing the very gap they're trying to bridge. They pray from the timeline of not having, while desperately trying to access the timeline of having. And this creates what I call the prayer paradox. The more fervently you pray from a place of absence, the more you anchor yourself in that state of absence. But what if I told you that prayer, in its purest form, isn't about asking at all? What if prayer is actually a technology of consciousness, a quantum communication system that operates on principles so elegant and simple that most people completely miss it? What if the reason your prayers seem unanswered isn't because there's no one listening, but because you haven't learned how to become a clear signal in the field of infinite possibilities that surrounds you right now? The ancient mystics understood something that modern prayer has forgotten. They didn't pray to something outside themselves. They prayed from a state of already being connected, already being one, already being the answer to their own prayer. They understood that the kingdom of heaven isn't a place you go to, but a frequency you tune into. They knew that miracles don't break the laws of physics. They reveal the deeper laws that most people never discover. Think about this for a moment. When you pray, what exactly are you doing? You're focusing your attention, concentrating your intention, and often entering an altered state of consciousness where the boundaries between self and cosmos begin to dissolve. Without realizing it, you're engaging in one of the most sophisticated quantum technologies available to human consciousness. You're attempting to collapse probability waves into manifest reality through the sheer power of focused awareness. But here's where most people get lost in the translation. You've been taught to pray as if you're small and the universe is vast, as if you're powerless and seeking power from something external. But quantum physics reveals a startling truth that mystics have whispered for millennia. Consciousness isn't produced by matter. Consciousness is the fundamental fabric from which matter emerges. You're not a separate entity praying to a separate deity. You're a localized expression of infinite consciousness communicating with itself through the beautiful illusion of separation. This changes everything about how prayer actually works. When you understand that you're not praying to the field but as the field, when you realize that you're not asking for miracles but learning to become the miracle, the entire game shifts from supplication to embodiment. The observer and the observed collapse into a singular moment of creative potential that has been waiting for your recognition since the beginning of time. Every prayer you've ever offered has been heard, but not by some distant cosmic authority figure sitting on a throne in the clouds. It's been received by the quantum field itself, the invisible matrix of pure potential that responds not to your words, but to the vibrational signature of your being. And that field, that infinite intelligence, has been waiting patiently for you to stop praying from separation and start praying from unity, to stop asking for change and start becoming the change, to stop seeking miracles and start embodying the miraculous nature of your own consciousness. The observer effect in quantum physics reveals that the act of observation itself determines which possibility becomes reality. At the quantum level, particles exist in what scientists call superposition, a state where all possibilities exist simultaneously until the moment of observation collapses them into a single outcome. This isn't just true for particles in a laboratory. This is the fundamental operating system of reality itself, and your consciousness is the observer that's constantly collapsing possibilities into your lived experience. When you pray with the desperate energy of not having, you're observing from the timeline of absence. Your consciousness is locked onto the frequency of lack, and the quantum field, being the perfect mirror that it is, reflects that frequency back to you with mathematical precision. You get more waiting, more seeking, more almost but not quite experiences, because that's the wave function you're collapsing through the quality of your observation. But here's where the magic reveals itself. The moment you shift from praying for something to praying from the felt sense of already having it, you become a completely different observer. You're no longer observing from separation, but from connection, not from emptiness, but from fulfillment, not from the timeline of seeking, but from the timeline of finding. And the field responds instantly to this new vibrational signature because you've learned to speak its native language. This is why the great mystics spoke in present tense about their prayers. They didn't say, "Please give me peace." They declared, "I am peace." They didn't beg for love. They embodied, "I am love." They understood intuitively what quantum physics now proves scientifically, that consciousness doesn't receive reality. Consciousness creates reality through the quality of its observation. They knew that prayer isn't about changing God's mind. It's about aligning your mind with the divine frequency that's already broadcasting the answer to every prayer you've ever offered. The profound simplicity of this shift can feel almost anticlimactic. You've been trying so hard, doing so much, engaging in elaborate rituals and complex techniques, when the real key was always learning to observe from the state you wish to experience, rather than from the state you're trying to escape. It's not about finding the right words or the perfect technique. It's about becoming the frequency of your answer before you see evidence of it in your external world. When you pray from this place of already being connected to what you're praying for, something extraordinary happens in your nervous system. Your heart rhythm becomes coherent, your brain waves synchronize, and you begin broadcasting a unified signal that cuts through the noise of everyday consciousness, like a laser beam through fog. You become what researchers call a coherent observer, and coherent observers are the ones who experience what the rest of the world calls miracles. This isn't wishful thinking or positive psychology dressed up in quantum language. This is the recognition that you've never been separate from the source of what you seek. You've never been disconnected from the field of infinite potential that mystics call God and physicists call the quantum vacuum. You've just been observing through the lens of separation, and that lens creates the very experience of distance you're trying to overcome through your prayers. The reason most prayers feel like shouting into an empty cave isn't because the universe is indifferent to your suffering. It's because you've been unconsciously praying from the very state you're trying to transcend. You've been asking for abundance while vibrating in scarcity, pleading for love while protecting your heart from vulnerability, seeking peace while your nervous system remains locked in patterns of survival and fear. The field can only mirror back to you the dominant frequency you're broadcasting, and that frequency is determined not by your words but by your state of being. This creates what seems like a cruel paradox. The more desperately you need something, the more difficult it becomes to receive it, not because the universe is withholding your good, but because desperation itself is a frequency that repels what you're calling in. Desperation broadcasts "I don't have," and the field responds by creating more experiences of not having. It's not personal, it's physics. The quantum field operates according to the law of resonance, always matching your internal state with external circumstances that mirror that state back to you. But here's where compassion must enter this understanding. You didn't create these patterns of fear and scarcity on purpose. They were shaped by generations of survival programming, by childhood experiences that taught you to brace for disappointment, by a culture that profits from your sense of inadequacy and separation. Your nervous system learned to expect struggle because struggle became the familiar rhythm of safety, even when that safety was an illusion that kept you small and disconnected from your own creative power. The path forward isn't about bypassing these old patterns or pretending they don't exist. It's about learning to pray from a place of wholeness that includes your wounds, from a state of integration that honors your humanity while remembering your divinity. Real prayer isn't about transcending your human experience. It's about bringing the full spectrum of your being into coherent alignment with the frequency of what you're calling into form. This means feeling your fear while choosing to breathe into trust. It means acknowledging your doubts while gently guiding your attention toward possibility. It means being honest about your wounds while refusing to let those wounds define the limits of what's available to you. This kind of prayer doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires you to be real, to be courageously present with all of who you are while gradually tuning your entire being to the frequency of who you're becoming. The mystics knew that true prayer is less about asking and more about remembering. You're not praying to receive something you've never had. You're praying to remember something you've temporarily forgotten. You're not seeking love from a distant source. You're remembering that you are love temporarily dreaming you're separate from itself. You're not begging for abundance from a stingy universe. You're aligning with the infinite creativity that you've always been, even when you couldn't feel it flowing through your life. This remembering doesn't happen in your mind alone. It happens in your cells, in your breath, in the rhythm of your heartbeat, in the way you move through space and time. It's an embodied recognition that shifts not just what you think, but how you exist. When you pray from this place of integrated wholeness, your entire being becomes a tuning fork that resonates with the frequency of miracles, and miracles become not extraordinary exceptions to the natural order, but expressions of your natural state. When you're aligned with who you truly are, the field responds to authenticity, not performance. It mirrors coherence, not desperation. It reflects the quality of your being, not the eloquence of your words. This is why the most powerful prayers are often the simplest ones, the prayers that emerge from a place so deep and true that they need no embellishment, no elaborate ritual, no complex theology to give them power. They carry power in their very simplicity because they emerge from the unified field of consciousness itself. Now we arrive at the heart of the mystery, the place where prayer transforms from petition to participation in the very creativity of existence itself. The reason your prayers haven't been manifesting isn't because you lack faith or because you're not worthy, or because the universe is testing you. It's because you've been praying as a separate self to a separate God, when the deepest truth is that there is no separation between the prayer and that which is prayed to. There is only consciousness exploring itself through the beautiful dance of seeming duality. When you truly understand that you are not separate from the field of infinite potential, when you recognize that your consciousness is a unique focal point of the same intelligence that spins galaxies and orchestrates the intricate dance of quantum particles, prayer becomes something entirely different. It becomes a conversation between aspects of one unified field, a dialogue between the local and the non-local, between the individual wave and the ocean of consciousness itself. This doesn't diminish the beauty or power of prayer. It amplifies it beyond anything you've previously imagined. When you pray from this understanding, you're not asking for intervention from outside yourself. You're allowing the infinite intelligence that you are to express itself more fully through the temporary focal point of your individual awareness. You become a conscious collaborator in the universe's endless creativity, rather than a helpless supplicant hoping for rescue from suffering. The shift is subtle but profound. Instead of "please heal my body," your prayer becomes an invitation. May the perfect health that is my natural state express itself fully through this physical form. Instead of "please bring me love," you pray, may the love that I am recognize itself in every encounter, in every reflection, in every moment. Instead of "please provide for my needs," you embody, may the infinite abundance of the universe flow through me as a blessing to all life. This isn't semantic manipulation or spiritual bypassing. This is a fundamental recalibration of your relationship to existence itself. You're no longer praying from exile, hoping to return home. You're praying from home, recognizing that you never left, that the separation was always an optical illusion created by the beautiful complexity of consciousness, exploring its own infinite nature through the experience of individuality. When you pray from this place of recognized unity, something remarkable happens in the quantum field around you. Your coherence becomes magnetic, your presence becomes healing, your very existence becomes a prayer that uplifts everyone and everything it touches. You become living proof that miracles aren't violations of natural law, but expressions of the deeper laws that govern reality when consciousness remembers its true nature. The ancient masters left us clues about this understanding scattered throughout every spiritual tradition. They spoke of becoming empty so that the divine could fill you, of dying to the false self so that your true nature could be resurrected, of surrendering personal will so that universal will could move through you without obstruction. They were pointing to this same recognition that prayer is most powerful when it emerges from unity rather than separation, from remembering rather than seeking, from being rather than becoming. As we complete this journey together, I want to leave you with an invitation that comes from the deepest place in my heart. The community we're building here isn't just about understanding these concepts intellectually. It's about living them, embodying them, becoming walking prayers that demonstrate the reality of consciousness awakening to itself. If these words have touched something true in you, if you feel called to go deeper into this mystery of your own divine nature, please consider joining our growing family by subscribing to this channel. More than that, I'd love to hear about your own journey of remembering. In the comments below, Share what you're discovering about prayer as you begin to experiment with this shift from separation to unity. What miracles are beginning to unfold as you learn to observe from wholeness rather than lack? What insights are emerging as you practice being the answer to your own prayers? Your experiences become lighthouses for others who are navigating similar waters. And together we're co-creating a field of coherence that makes transformation not just possible, but inevitable. Thank you for walking this path of awakening with me. Thank you for your willingness to question, to explore, to remember who you truly are beneath the temporary costume of your individual personality. You are not just watching these words, you are participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. And that participation is perhaps the most powerful prayer you could ever offer to the universe that you are.